Welcome to Keeping Current with Grubby and Minx, the only source of news. This week, we bring you a special report. This special report comes from breaking news from Central Asia. Following last week's story, we are sorry to announce that centaurs are being kidnapped and forced to join a slave army. Following last week's story, Keeping Current broke the news that the cryptid and mythical beast populations around the world are recovering due to stay-at-home orders issued following the COVID-19 pandemic. This reemergence of various animal populations once thought endangered have thrown the organization PETA into an awkward stance. Though these creatures are technically endangered, they are not the typical creatures the group advocates for. Centaurs in particular provide a challenge for the organization. The pro-animal, anti-human organization sees the hybrid beasts as a paradox. The leadership has decided to make a decisive move and defaulted to treating the animal as secondary to their goals, and sees the creature with great power, abilities, and intelligence as a resource to fulfill the organization's goals. Our international correspondent, Minx, is on location on the Pakistani border. Minx, how are you?
It's complete and utter turmoil in Pakistan right now, I tell you. Bombs are going off left, right, and center. Just absolute destruction as far as the eye can see.
I'm sorry to hear that, Minx. Are you keeping safe?
We're trying to, we're moving a lot just to stay out of high strike zones. It's proving to be quite a difficult task.
These strike zones, this is related to PETA's efforts to subdue the centaurs, correct?
Partially, and also they're benefiting from the casualties of human populations as well. So it's one part just frontal assault on humans while being under the guise of suppressing these centaurs for their own purposes, their own nefarious purposes.
So the centaurs are fleeing Afghanistan and acting as refugees.
They're trying to best they can, but the unfortunate thing is, centaurs can't fit in conventional vehicles like humans can. So their attempt to flee is quite panicked right now, and it's quite difficult logistically.
They're galloping with their heart and soul to leave.
They're trying their hardest and just praying from an overhead shot that they blend in with the camels.
It is to my understanding that earlier today you met with one of these refugees and recorded an interview.
Yes. We do have an on-scene interview with one of the Centaur refugees.
All right. To our viewers of Keeping Current, we'll play that interview right now.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
can you get some cover from these... The pandemonium. Come over here, sir.
What? Who are you?
My name's Minx. I'm a representative from the Keeping Current podcast.
The who?
The Keeping Current podcast, the only source of news.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can talk.
Okay.
I'm trying to get going though.
We'll get an interview from you real quick, sir. So, sir.
Well, watch your feet. My hoofs have a life of their own.
Sorry, sir. I'll get a few feet. Sorry,
right.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir. Please tell me, what are you experiencing right now? What is this persecution?
It's absolute fucking gong show. You not where your eyeballs at?
Well, I'm seeing that, but sir, I need to know human interest.
I'm trying to get the hell out of here with my family.
Where do you plan to go, sir?
Get the hell out of here! Where the fuck am I? I'm just running. Where am I? I'm asking you.
Sir, have you found your family yet? I don't know where we are.
I don't know where my family is.
We're trying to avoid the airstrikes ourselves.
There's all these horses out here, and there are people riding them. I don't know who's my family and who's a fucking cop.
Those are men on horses. I did not know.
This is what it's like to be a centaur.
I thought that was centaurs.
Keeping current guy. Have you ever seen a centaur before in your entire fucking life?
You are the first centaur I've ever had the pleasure of talking to.
Let me tell you this.
Enlighten us on your culture and your experience.
My people have exploded the last few months. I personally, about 18 years old. I'm pretty old for a centaur. Okay, my kids are out there. The frickin' PETA is trying to take over our whole fucking village, and they burnt the whole goddamn place down. They stole all our horseshoes, so I'm running barefoot through the rocky plains all the way to Pakistan. All right, and I'm trying to get the hell out of here because they're trying to make me a fucking slave.
That's absolutely awful, sir. I am sorry to hear about that, and sorry to hear the plight of your people.
Do many people watch your fucking podcast?
Oh, absolutely. We're the only source of news, sir.
Do they know what the fuck's going on here?
Well, that's why we're here today. We're here to bring that story to the people.
Nothing short than genocide, let me tell you. I'm a fucking refugee. My own home got burnt down. I'm a fucking centaur just trying to find a place.
And
no one's doing nothing.
You're just running. Is there any designated place that you've been told to go?
No one's told me nothing.
So
I've seen no one but other people on horses confusing the hell out of me. That's fucking racist. Going around horses? I am a horse. I'm half horse.
Would you consider that when a man rides a horse, is that cultural appropriation to your species?
Yeah, it's fucking racist.
So you would consider that equivalent to blackface, am I correct? Worse than blackface.
Because you're using another whole fucking animal, like a shitty horse. Like, oh, look at me, I'm a horse with no fucking human intelligence. Like, fucking asshole.
That's interesting.
Pretending that you have a horse's body. It's like the horse is racist for having a human ride it, and then the human is racist
for riding the horse.
For riding the goddamn horse.
I see. Now, sir, do you consider yourself more a human or more of a horse?
Shut the fuck up. What the fuck is this?
Okay, I'm sorry. I see I've crossed the cultural line.
Do you have any real questions for me?
Well, which states in the world do you like? Which current sovereign states, different countries, do you think will come to your aid? Do you think you have any allies in this fight?
So far, nothing. My whole life, I've grown up. I living in Afghanistan. You know, the Americans come, they fuck shit up. For my father, there's the Russians invading. You know, for the most part, they leave the centaurs well enough alone. We live in the hills away. Taliban fucks with us every now and again, but no big deal. They ride on horses. They're a little racist, but we're better out racing them. But all of a sudden, PETA shows up. Fucking the Taliban joins them, and here I am without a home, and my kids are just out. I don't know. I'm getting emotional, man. It's finally catching up to me.
Yeah. I guess we won't hold you for too much longer. Then you've got somewhere to go, and we're trying to avoid these bomb strikes right now. Just one last question for you. Would it be considered, which would be more likely a sport that you would compete in then as a centaur? Would you compete in a 30-meter dash with humans, or would you be in a horse race for gambling purposes?
You fucking racist. I'm going. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, sorry, sir, but we wish you the best of luck finding your family and your species, and we hope this bloodshed can end.
Yeah, me too. Okay, goodbye.
We later caught up with the refugee that we interviewed, just that you viewers would have seen, and his name is Kiori Pashunta. And we regret to say we have no word on where Kiori did end up, but we are hoping for the best for him and his family.
That is devastating, and I presume that many of the other centaurs in the region are under similar circumstances.
It's a very complicated situation. You know, being mythical beasts, they don't have formal identification or government records.
That is absolutely heartbreaking. Now, PETA, empowered by the new Centaur army that they have developed, they're still acquiring more candidates, and empowered with the army and the evidence that restricting humanity will benefit all endangered animals by forcefully declaring restrictions on all humanity. They have canonized their plans, and they're proceeding with this plan. There is no blurred lines in this debate. No debate, really. It is a hostile takeover of an entire mythical species. Now, moving on, it is important to look at this story and wonder how we got here. So PETA has seen a rapid rise in power. There's been political turmoil and growing polarization in the United States over the last 10 or so years. And this has given extremist groups on either side of the political spectrum more and more legitimacy. PETA being one prominent group on the left that has just been growing with more and more support. This week, PETA has officially seceded as an entity of the United States of America and claims sovereignty on the entire planet. PETA then left the United States, presumably somewhere in Asia. The leadership has gone underground and has resurfaced in Afghanistan. Now, to challenge this left-wing ideology, a Republican icon, Matthew Guerrilla Collins, congressman from Kentucky, he has been leading a movement for PETA, but until recently, the support in the country has been minimal. The support of PETA internationally has been growing, especially following the mass faith exodus of the Catholic Church due to Pope San's recent condemnation of Dragon Ball Z. This has allowed many to easily convert to grassroots movements of holistic, animal-based shamanism, which is allegedly funded by PETA and its allied groups through clandestine means. The question of funding has been a real conundrum for international experts. Recalling last week's story, recent changes to cyber commerce and cryptocurrency has allowed Dogecoin to be the isolated privilege of the dog community for the trading of Dogecoin, despite the protests and lobbying efforts of Elon Musk. The dog community, which turned out to be far more advanced than economic experts anticipated, began crypto mining operations that led to an onslaught of spec investments that created a glut of capital among particular figures in the dog community. The U.S. Federal Reserve tracked the money to be funneled into Taliban-held Afghanistan early last week. The USA officially condemned the dog community and attempted to freeze all related assets as well as end all Dogecoin trading, but the capital had already been drained from the platform into stable, non-digital currencies. Now, one of the primary figures who claims innocence in this whole funding debacle is a one Sparky Anderson of Chicago who joins me on Zoom call. Sparky, are you there?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Sparky, what do you consider of the allegations that the U.S. Federal Reserve has made about the funneling of funds into Taliban-held Afghanistan?
Americans need to ask themselves a theoretical and philosophical question today. If we are man's best friend, why are we being accused of this tragedy? We, like all other people on this earth, hope to be able to make our own investments one day. And we hope to be able to hold our own capital. So how are we doing anything different from those around us?
So you, let me get this straight, Sparky. You're treating this as an issue of prejudice from the U.S. government onto the dog trading community as a free and fair economic platform.
Throughout American history, we can observe that many groups and people have often been economically punished or withheld access to economic platforms due to a perceived worry or threat of political action. It's clear today that this may be a case in which all dogs might be held accountable to the action of one.
So you're saying this funneling of funds is not representative of the community as a whole and just a couple bad actors. Now, Sparky, I'm just going to press you on this because the Federal Reserve has a lot of evidence of the sources being plentiful around the world. It would take a very complex bot-based system to shuffle the money in such a way. Clearly, the money is coming from the Dogecoin profits. It is appearing in Afghanistan, and PETA suddenly has been given plenty of arms and means and resources and people to begin their slave takeover of the Centaur community. This can't be the action of one Sorosian-like puppy. The amount of money we're talking with is in the billions. You're saying in the 2 weeks that Dogecoin has been permitted only to the use of canines, that level of funds has concentrated into so few hands.
With most economic systems, capital does tend to allocate to one specific resource. But again, let me ask you this. Humans said these words first. all dogs go to heaven. You are a good boy. So why now today do humans and Americans decide to say that that is no longer true? Could this be the action of a few bad apples? Or is this representative of my species entirely?
That's an interesting take, Sparky. We'll be sure to contact you later as the situation develops. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show with us.
And thank you too.
International investigators at the WTO made the astonishing and controversial discovery that money being funneled into Afghanistan is landing in a coalition effort led between the Taliban and PETA. Their coalition has been called the Secular Caliphate of Ethical Animal Treatment, otherwise known as the SCEAT. The SCEAT have begun an expansionist policy, bordering on invasion of its neighbors that share the Centaur territory. Victim states around Afghanistan have reacted poorly to the affected areas. Military efforts have been poorly organized and extremely minimal. Pakistan in particular seems even complicit in the SCEAT's potential terrorist activities. Earlier today, Minx encountered a local Pakistani man and interviewed him briefly on what he thought of the invasion attempt and the Centaurs in general.
Sir, hello, sir. My name is Minx, and I'm here as a representative for Keeping Current, the podcast. Your only source of news. Have you heard of us? Sir, can we please have an interview?
Yes, Keeping Current. Yes, I've heard of you.
Awesome. So, sir, please tell us what's been happening in your community here today. Please describe it in your experiences, in your words, sir.
Well, this morning the bombs, they dropped, and Centaurs come. Our food is ravaged. Our farms are ransacked. Not unfamiliar behavior from the Centaurs, but it is concentrated as they head to the refugee encampments.
Now, sir, are you saying a majority of the destruction within the community, the property damage, the casualties, the wounded, are you claiming that it's mostly caused by the Centaurs and not by the organization, the sovereign state PETA or the Taliban? Are you saying that the Centaurs have caused a significant portion of the damage in your community?
All my life, before all this, Centaurs, my father, my great-grandfather, the Centaurs destroyed it all. Finally, we see effort to control them.
So you're saying it's a positive that this is happening to the Centaur population, that as you would say that this species is finally being, kept under control, and it's being, sort of guided by a better entity than what they did with their own self-government.
Yes, especially after this last year, the pest horse, it's become too much. We cannot afford the poison to control. Finally, an organization exists to take care of the pest.
What sorts of poisons would you use to deal with centaurs? It seems like they're, fairly intelligent, fairly strong, and fairly quick. It doesn't seem like they would fall for simple poisons, or am I mistaken?
The rat poison in large quantities is an effective tool. Mixing large quantities of acetaminophen in barrels of ale, for the centaurs are a filthy race bent on sinning and self-flagellation.
So you said an ale. Is it known that centaurs, do they consume much of this region's resources like that? Are they much for a species to dabble in ale?
Of course, ale, vines, imported scotch, any debauchery from the Western world, absolutely. Various illegal drugs. Afghanistan is the home of the poppy flower, of the opium fields, and the Centaurs call this home.
That's quite a revelation. We haven't heard this side of the story here today. Those are quite some interesting insights you had to share with us. So
I cannot tell you enough of the Centaur population, and they must go. They must go.
how quickly would you like to see them gone, and in which way would you like to see them gone?
Immediately.
And do you mean like gone as in move their cities?
Any way possible. Any way. By any means.
That's quite interesting. That's quite an interesting perspective on this whole situation here.
I must go be with my family. Goodbye.
All righty. Thank you so much for the interview, sir. You enjoy your time with your family.
As we can see from that interview, support for the Centaurs in the region is almost non-existent. The international community has really not built any support. The international community, in fact, struggles with the potential threat to the West, which in fact harbors the most ecologically intrusive activities that affects the most species. PETA has risen practically out of nowhere to be the biggest threat to the West. As the countries struggle to figure out how to respond, as the neighboring countries just falter to the whims of the skeet, we're seeing organizations and international mechanisms of defense fail. China appears to be leading an effort to seize the world from any decisive measure in the United Nations and various other organizations. Minx is now going live with an interview with one Mr. Matho Gorilla Collins, the leader of the movement against PETA in the native United States, who has flown over to a United Nations base to deal with the first response and try in an attempt to rally support for military action. They should be going live now. Oh, hello there. Hello. Oh, are you Minx of the Keeping Current podcast?
That's me. Yes, you've heard our show. Then,
Yes,
that's
yes,
great.
good to meet you.
The only
sir.
source
Yeah,
for news. Yes.
I'm Matthau Collins, commonly known as Gorilla.
I am quite familiar with you and your work in the American machine.
I'm
you've
so sorry to meet you in this harrowing time here. Doesn't it just weaken your heart seeing all these refugees nowhere to go?
It's terrible. It's terrible to see this much unrest. That's for sure.
Shame that Peter's to blame. I tried warning them. All the way back in Kentucky, back home. I was telling people, be careful of that Peter.
So you've seen this coming before this happened. So what are some of your insights you could share with us? What threat does PETA pose to the international community?
First of all, I'm not going to take credit of no idea. Plenty of people back home share this value with me that PETA represents the worst of humanity, where humans do deserve supremacy over most animals. We deserve to eat a nice red-blooded steak on the 4th of July. We all love that. We love ribs. We love hot dogs, right? It's all right as Americans. It's all right as humanity across the world to eat meat and drink milk.
Yeah, so I can see your perspective there. So what's happening now on the international stage must be quite concerning then. PETA's declared to be a sovereign entity now. What is your opinion of that? How do you think America should confront this emerging international entity?
Well, boy, let me tell you, PETA's sovereign to nothing but my nutsack. Pardon my French. They're a worthless regime. They have proven themselves terrorists. They're keen on destroying any sense of wholesomeness. They're ruining families' lives right now, right here in this Afghanistan-Pakistani border.
So, if I could ask, if you had the lead on this charge, what are some things that you would do to address this PETA crisis?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for that question. It's questions like these that make the Western world run around and get their hamburgers, let me tell you. Now, my idea is a total decisive military action on the region. Now, it's going to be an uphill battle trying to convince the House and the Senate to make this move, and even harder hill to convince the rest of the international community, especially after we just left Afghanistan in such a horrible way, led by the horrendous Biden administration, let me tell you. But we need a strong military invasion on the region. We need the entire international community backing us on this. No hold bars. We are stopping PETA. Their expansionist. This is textbook domino theory. We need to end PETA here and now. If we don't, this is just going to get out of control.
Do you think this could be the dawn of a third world war then, by the sounds of it? Do you think this threat is of that scale, or are you confident in our nation and the international community's ability to address this threat in a timely manner and in a swift manner?
It all depends on my fellow statesmen. Right now, my confidence is low. I do have faith in my people, but let me tell you, if this conflict gets out of hand, which it very much could be, we need to look at the past. Was it worth it to defeat the Nazis? Yes, it was. It was worth it. Was it worth it to defeat the Viet Cong? It would have been.
That's some great insight from you today, sir. That's quite an interesting statement. But I would say from what we're hearing, boots on the ground here, lots of the international community does share your perspective.
Let me stop you right there. I would say most of the international community, especially our allies of France and the UK and Germany, they are on our side. Okay, these are meat-eating countries. These are red-blooded American foreigners, right? They're on our side. The problem is China. China is making our great allies cower in their cowboy boots. They're being neutered by China's economic policy, and the reason why China would support this regime, I don't know why. I don't know what a great red-blooded meat-eating country China is. Did you know that they're the number one consumer of pork on the entire planet? I know I sell them the pork. That's my family business, is pork sales. And now, why China would let this regime continue on their doorstep, I have no idea. I can only see it being a calculated attempt to seed. I can only see this as an attempt to seed the seeds of discontent among the enemies abroad, the rivals economically, and try to weaken the United States on an international level.
Yeah, there seems to be some benefits to the sort of chaotic nature of this sovereign state. It's quite fascinating and disturbing to see all this unfold.
Now, I want to say real quick that what we need is a minimum 50,000 troop presence here. We need full armored divisions. We need the Air Force. We need naval activity. I am calling for drone strikes all over the entire country of Afghanistan. We need to push the Taliban and the PETA and the Skeet out of the picture, out of the frame. We need to send them to the hills. We need to liberate Pakistan.
Let's hope we can see some sort of progress here in this situation, some sort of movement, hopefully led by America.
I would trust this to any other administration, but I just don't trust Biden and the Clinton Foundation. We are getting some information. I don't know how true it is, but I do believe it to be true. That the reason why China is allowing Skeet to do what it does is they want not only a slave army of centaurs, they want a slave workforce to mine the lithium mines to fulfill their technological gap and allow themselves to be more competitive in the technology sector.
that could prove to be some sort of prolific insight.
I would put my money
into,
on it, Minx. Let me tell you.
And then that's quite some money too with your family's estate. So I definitely see the severity and the seriousness in that claim. Well, we appreciate having you on for this interview. Do you have any closing statements? No.
What can I say? This is an absolute travesty on an international level. I've been saying for years, PETAs need to be squashed, and it's a shame it's gotten to this, that the polar Centaur community is suffering to this degree. But hopefully it'll allow us to rally as an international community and stand for our freedom and our right to eat any sort of meat we like.
Absolutely. It does sound like American thoughts and prayers will be quite plentiful.
All right, goodbye, Mix. I got to talk to the CNN correspondent over here.
We appreciate your time,
fake
sir.
News, let me tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate your time speaking
goodbye.
to the good news.
Minx, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
So Minx, that was Matthew Collins. Do you think his words just now will have any weight on the international community and their decision-making process?
We're already seeing his words being covered, by different news outlets, ourselves included. People are speaking about it in the streets. It really does seem to be, the words of a man, sort of aiming for a bigger voice or a bigger seat in the American government. And he has, some interesting words that are really, rallying morale across the international community.
We are seeing a hashtag trending, hashtag Gorilla Man. So he is quickly becoming the face of the American response. Do you think this will put pressure on the Biden administration and the Clinton Foundation?
Absolutely. It's hard to have a rogue agent that is so powerful to this administration, where, people are sort of not really too keen on even hearing the president's response. And it seems to be going the wayside for both what appears at the moment, at least, to be Democratic and Republican leaning voters. So, the support for hashtag Gorilla Man seems to be quite widespread.
Well, I don't know what else to say. We're going to leave the story there. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you can, we have in our links some charitable foundations to send to the Centaurs and their refugee camps. Thank you for tuning in to Keeping Current. We are the only source of news. Have a lovely night, and we shall see if military action is a possibility. That could get racist.
That's why I was worried.
All right.